What a day it was for the Tyrone senior footballers, All-Ireland football champions for the fourth time, beating Mayo at Croke Park on Saturday evening by 2-14 to 15 points. I'm joined by two men who were part of Tyrone's previous three All-Ireland successes. Brian McGuigan is with us. Evening, Brian.
How are you? Good.
And Ryan McMenamin should be there as well. How are you, Ryan?
Hey, I'm 100%. Yourself?
I'm all right. How were the emotions, Brian, at full time on Saturday evening in Croke Park?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was the first time maybe me and Ryan had experienced Tyrone win the All-Ireland as supporters, and I have to say, it was emotional. I took the three kids down to the match on Saturday, and I took them down in 2018, but I think like a lot of Tyrone supporters in 2018 were going down with hope more than anything. We knew we were up against a great Dublin team, and we honestly didn't give our boys much of a chance. But I think coming into this final, like I said it the week leading up, I thought Tyrone was going to win by 4 or 5 points. I just thought that the players were better, and I just thought that a much stronger bench. Like the bench has been strong for Tyrone all year. And I was standing out in the street, and when the Tyrone bus was coming through, like it made the hair stand on the back of my neck. And even at the final whistle, it was the first time, probably even from our time, like there was a real sense of pride in the players, in the job they had done. Like they were brilliant, they were fantastic, and I think those players and supporters even are fed up with listening about the players and the teams of the Naughties, and I'm sure the current players are so fed up about listening about them players and compared to those players, and now they're up alongside those teams. Like they're every bit as good, and we're so proud of them.
Yeah. When you're our age, Brian, I guess 2008 doesn't seem like that long ago in some ways, and so much of the talk was around Mayo in 1951, but actually for your kids there's a generation, 12, 13 years of Tyrone fans who don't know this success, who probably experienced this for the first time. Yeah,
and that's what it's all about. It's all about the kids. And do you know what feeling it is about in Tyrone this past 2 days? It's nearly the same feeling as when we won it the first time, because I know you say 2008 isn't a long time, but there's so many kids about here who have never experienced Tyrone win the All-Ireland. And the only sad thing I would say about the whole occasion now is that there's no trophy up the road. I'm hoping later on in the year the trophy will be able to come up the road, but you know, the children have to hold Sam. They want to see it in their own right when Tyrone win it. And I think the likes of last night and the team coming out in Oma and Killein and places like Mayo, when Sam's not there, it takes away a wee bit of it. And I just hope later on that people come to their senses and let us take it up the road.
Ricey, what do you like when you're in the stand at Croke Park and Tyrone are in an All-Ireland final and you're watching on? Could you keep the emotions in check?
Yeah, look, surprisingly I can. You know, I think I'm more calmer in the stand than I was in the pitch, you know. But no, like I think I echo everything Brian says. You know, I think probably the last couple of games, I think the whole supporters have got in behind this team, because I think ever since the semi-final that they saw that the level that they put it out against Kerry and how hard they worked. Like again, like the lads did it again, and as I said, like as Brian said there, like it was 13 years for the last final, and it is about the kids. And I know my nieces and nephews, they're just crazy about it. All I'm hearing about is Cian McGeary and Frank Burns, and it does get to the stage, because even my own nephews, I think they associate me more with Fermanagh football than they did with Tyrone. But it's absolutely great, and for us seeing the boys won it, and it just sets it off for the next generation. And for me, I'm proud of them, and I think again I echo what Brian says. It closes the page on us and closes the page on the teams of the Naughties, and these boys are up there in their own right, because I know as a players you're always sick of hearing about what the boys did in the past, and look, and I'm just so happy for them, and it's great to see.
Yeah, still nice to be able to say to the nieces and nephews when they're getting excited that I did that 3 times. So you'll always have that, at least, Ricey. This is a remarkable achievement of management, what we've seen from Brian Dooher and Fergal Lohan. Firstly, the expectation of taking over after Mickey Hart, of 17 seasons in charge, the unprecedented success that he brought to Tyrone, but also what's gone against them this season, the massive setback of conceding 6-15 against Kerry 11 weeks ago, that match in the league, and then the situation just a month ago where Tyrone are pulling out of the championship due to the amount of COVID issues in the squad. I can't imagine too many people, Brian, thought at the start of the season in Tyrone that this was going to be the end result.
No, certainly not. And you know, I would have had my doubts, and I'm sure when we were watching the league game against Kerry, that strengthened those doubts in our head. Are we capable of matching the big teams? But look, coming in, people, we do have this siege mentality in Tyrone where we like to say that everybody's against us now, but this might seem cocky from the likes of a Tyrone man, but there's people who have visions in Tyrone, the likes of Peter Canavan, Brian Duher, Fergal, Logan, and even people in the county board, and more importantly, people at Club Tyrone who finance everything. And they have visions of Tyrone climbing up that ladder and the Roll of Honour. And like over the next 20 years, I'm sure that they will see that they want Tyrone to maybe win the next 7, 8, 9, 10 All-Irelands. They climb up that ladder. And look, it's a great start, and I thought whenever Fergal and Brian come in, I didn't think that they had enough time with the whole COVID restrictions and that they would be able to implement their own game plan. But I have to say they've done it perfectly, and you can see what Brian and Fergal, when they're talking after the games, you never see them in any pictures, and when they're doing interviews, they make it all about the players. It's never about them, and the way they went about it. I know we would have good victories in the past, All-Ireland quarter-final victories in the past, and the result was good. We won the game, but maybe the way we played, we weren't satisfied with. But now these players are winning, and they're also putting in brilliant performances. So, and I think leading in the next year, look, 7, 8, 9 months is a long time in the GAA calendar, but I think these players are well equipped, even better than we would have been, to do back-to-back, something which we never could do, because I think this panel of players is much stronger than maybe the panels that we would have went in with. Like there's even lads who didn't make the subs on Saturday, and you're scratching your head thinking, how are these lads not making the subs because they're that good?
Right.
So I know I've seen the prices today. They're not favourites, but certainly in my head, I can't see anybody overtaking them next year.
Ricey, the management team are two men you know well. Brian Duher from your playing days, and I know Fergal Logan in his role as a lawyer was a good man to get you out of a tight spot when needed through the years. You're obviously very involved in the coaching side now. Have you been able to get an insight into their dynamic, their relationship as a coaching team, and how they work together and how they split up the massive responsibilities that come with looking after an inter-county team?
Yeah, look, I think probably I've been lucky enough Fermanagh played Tyrone in a friendly at the start of the year, you know, and look, and you probably got to see the insight, and I was listening to Fergal talking to the players, and even by listening to Fergal as we were out in the stands, you could hear Fergal talking with the players and what he's expected. Even I was feeling motivated, you know, and you were kind of picking up a bit of see tips for yourself, and like, you know, as we all know, I think it's been well spoken that Fergal's a good guy and Brian's the bad guy, and that's not a bad thing to have. You know, I think even from the playing days, Brian didn't accept nothing. He didn't accept nothing, only the best standards, and I think probably it's emanated down through the squad, and I think Fergal goes about it in his own quiet way as well, and it's to me it's fantastic. Just at the start of the year, the whole question was how this going to work, and it had worked before in 2015 when the under-20s won the All-Ireland, and I think people maybe looked over that, and people might have thought maybe that they didn't have enough experience coming into the All-Ireland, but I think Brian's played in 3 and Fergal's played in 1, and they had various experience from both, like with Brian winning and Fergal losing. Again, they married that up, but look, as I said, like the lads they've set out their stall. I think they've did really, really well in the short time, and hopefully, as Brian says, it's up to the lads now to move on. And as I said, and Tyrone have always looked long term ahead of it, and anytime you've been chatting all down, it was about trying to be up there like Kerry are, like Dublin are, like like Mayo, Galway, like as always some of the big teams, as you're saying in the start of the year. And we mightn't win every Ulster, we mightn't win every All Ireland, but we're always going to be there about to be talked about, and I think that's what Tyrone wants. And as I said, we've fantastic facilities up in Girvahy, and it's just now we've a fantastic under-17 team as well. Hopefully we can build on that maybe, and it looks good for the future.
Yeah, and what Brian was saying there as well about the ambitions for the future, that like there is a coming together of people in Tyrone. And listen, it's the week after an All-Ireland final when you've just won. Maybe everything seems rosy in the garden, but it does seem as though the people of Tyrone, the people you want in Tyrone of influence and with backing, have all come together to make sure that this team lacks for nothing. And when I hear Conor McKenna, Ricey, saying they felt they were operating at maybe 60-70% in the semi-final and final, that there's a huge improvement to go. That are we looking at a Tyrone team that can contend, do you think, with Dublin and Tyrone Dublin and Kerry consistently over the next 5-10 years?
I think we can. Look, and I think it's all about, again, if you look at the age profile of the Tyrone team, maybe I think there's only maybe four over 30 on it. There's Petey Hart, Matty Donnelly, Roden McNamee and Niall Morgan, and so there's going to be a couple more next year. So like the age profile is good in the team. A huge chunk of the team is in between 25 and 29. So you would like to think now that they're mature and old enough now that they are at their peak. So you would like to think that they can come up and do it and contend, and like they have been contending. They have been at semi-finals. They have been in All-Ireland finals in the last 2-3 years. So they have been contending. We've just went that one step further and won it. And I think, as Brian knows, when you become an All-Ireland champion, you do walk with a wee bit of a pep in your step, and you do take that onto the pitch in the next couple of years, and hopefully the lads can do that. And I do think, and I do agree with Brian, there is a lot of good young talent on that squad that probably didn't get game time this year, but I'm sure you're going to see them next year, and I'm sure they're going to push on, and it's a great place to be, because no one will want to leave the panel, everyone will stay in the panel, and people will want to get into the panel as well, so it makes it great for Brian and Fergal.
Yeah. Brian, just on the performance and tactically how they set up, like I mentioned the Kerry game 11 weeks ago and they conceded 6 goals. Only 1 goal conceded by Tyrone in the championship. So much of the post-match analysis has been on the forward play and the taking of chances. But defensively, they have been rock solid throughout such a tough run through Ulster, through Kerry, through Mayo. Do you think that was a landmark moment actually for the management team as well, where they realised maybe what we initially thought wasn't going to work at championship level?
Yeah, looking back on the league performance, they're between Tyrone and Kerry. There's only one team that learned anything that day, and it was Tyrone. How they went about it, I know we spoke a lot about Brian and Fergal, but I think we have to give credit to Collie Holmes, Joe McMahon and Peter Donnelly too. It seems to be a collective effort but between them all, and I honestly believed at the start of the year when the 5 of them was announced, I was a bit wary of it, because they give 5 big personalities there, and it's very hard to distinguish who's the boss and who's calling the shots. Whenever we were there, like, we always knew that the final say was Mickey. He took advice on certain things, but he always had the last call, and that seemed to work for him. This group of management and players, it seems to be, it's a collective. I'm sure the experienced lads like Peter Hart, Matty Donnelly and Niall Morgan all have a say in what's happening also. But I think we were all focused on this past few years on having cover for our defenders, and maybe when Tyrone went down to Kerry, that's what it was all about. And sometimes Ricey would know more than me, but as a defender, you probably pass the buck a bit, and when you have cover in front of you, then you lost that bit of sharpness in man-to-man marking. The one thing that impressed me this year with the Tyrone defensively was, and especially after the Kerry game, and I've seen a few snapshots of the match on Sunday from high up in the stand, where you looked at Tyrone's defence and there was so much space there. But the thing about it was they're all 1v1, and they really did man up from the semi-final. And defensively they were solid. You said they only conceded 1 goal, but also going forward, like, I would have had my doubts going into this match on our midfield, because I thought that Mayo's midfield was strong and mobile, but Brian Kennedy and Con Kilpatrick given monster performances in the final. And also what I think was crucial on the day was Niall Morgan's kickouts going long in both the semi-final and the final. If you look at the semi-final, like, it wasn't in Niall Morgan's head to play a short kickout, because anytime a ball went wide or over the bar, like, Niall Morgan was walking to the ball and he was walking out to the 21 to take his kick. Whereas if I had him in the game plan to take a short kick out, he would have been sprinting behind the goal to get a kick and he would have been setting the ball down quick. But the game plan seemed to be to go long. And I think we might see other teams play that road and start going long, because even I think Tyrone's kickouts the other day, when they maybe had 8 or 9 short, I think maybe Mayo scored 4 or 5 times off that, whereas when Tyrone went long, they scored maybe half of their chances where they went long. So we might see a bit of a change in the way county teams are playing now.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what happens over the next couple of years. Tyrone are going to be a very big part of it. Brian McGuigan, Ryan McMenamin, thanks a lot for joining us. Enjoy the celebrations.
Oh, thank
you. Cheers.